What I'm going to show you is a favorite recipe. People love this bread. Easy to make. Rosemary olive bread, delicious. Not very many ingredients. Flour, olives. You get the olives from Costco. Large jar is very inexpensive, around $12. Some rosemary. I put in some olive tapenade. Gives it just a smidge more olive flavor, but it's not necessary. Some yeast. And then kosher salt. And the reason for the kosher salt is at the end you're going to be putting some salt onto the surface of the bread, and those little bits of salt give really nice little nuggets of flavor. You'll love it. Now, first, let's get the yeast working. So you're going to want to use 1.5 cups of water. I put in just a slightly warm water, and then 1.5 teaspoons of the yeast. I give it a bit of a stir just to mix it in. I use a plastic chopstick that I've got just because less stuff sticks to it. And then let this sit. Now I'll put this just aside here just to get it a little bit out of the way, because now we have to cut up some olives. And I'm going to cut up 12. 12, and yeah, for good measure I'm going to put in another 2. So, bunch of olives. We're finished with a jar. Now, I'll chop these up. Don't know if it makes much difference, but I tend to slice them lengthwise first. This whole process for me takes about 5 minutes, getting ready to put the ingredients into the yeast. So while this is working, the yeast is starting to work. And now, I'll slice them lengthwise, or crosswise, so we get little chunks. Here's the olives. The yeast has actually changed. It's starting to grow, which is what we want. Next step is to put flour. We're measuring out 4 cups of flour. So there's 2 cups, 4 cups of flour. So now I'll put in the other ingredients we have. So the olives will go in. Put some kosher salt in. The recipe calls for a tablespoon, but I find that too salty, so I put 1.5 teaspoons in. And then I mentioned that I put in a little tapenade. So it's about a tablespoon of tapenade. Again, I think that's optional. Using the dough hook on the mixer, I'm going to mix it up. I've actually found that you can mix this by hand, and it works fairly well as well. So now it's just mixing things slowly, initially, to get it started. This is going to turn into a moist but not wet hunk of dough. It'll start to stick together and pull away from the sides. And I'd say if you needed timing, I'd say I'd do this for about a minute at this point. Once it started, it takes about 30 seconds to get it to begin to go together, and then I do it for about a minute just to get it all mixed. Get a peek at it. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to give it a couple of more turns down here. For good measure. There. Now, get this off the dough hook. So that's what we ended up with. It sticks together. I turn it into a ball. And we're going to let this sit for 3 hours. So I'll cover this with saran and let it rise for 3 hours. I've had to put it in a new pot because you may have noticed, but I forgot to put the rosemary in. So I went back and attempted to mix the rosemary in, which I've never done before. I've never made that mistake, so it's not going to be quite the way I would have liked it to have been. And it's also risen a little bit onto the plastic surround, so I'll just pull off a little bit of this dough so I can get it out of here. This isn't critical because we're taking this out at this point. So what I'm going to be doing is taking this out and squishing it down a little bit, and then it's going to put some parchment paper into this, and then it's going to go into that time. That comes out. That's probably about the right length to have to go up both sides. A good trick is to crinkle it up. So you could push this in, but it's kind of, it's hard to get this nice and flat. And something that works pretty well is you crinkle it up, and when you open it up, it's a lot more pliable. Might not appear so because it's a lot more pliable. I've also been told that if I dampen it, it might work pretty well. But I haven't tried that. So that's where the dough is going to go. And now I'm going to kind of pull at this one. Now you notice the dough is kind of, it sticks together. I mean, and you can see there's the the olives are mixed right through it. The rosemary not so much. But I'm going to make it small. And I don't really spend a lot of time at this. What I'm doing is pulling it apart and just kind of pushing it back together. You could do this on a counter, or just you're not really trying to do much with it other than make it smaller again, because getting some of the air bubbles out. You notice how long I spent at that? Not very long. And I'll put that in the middle. I'll put the lid on, and now I'm going to wait for my next rise. Okay, so I'm about ready to take it out of the oven. It's been 30 minutes. This, by the way, I'm cooking something else, but let's go check this out. So, it comes out. There we are. This is always a neat spot time. So this is the big reveal. So, I'm not sure if you can see that, but there you are. That's what we've got. Now I'm going to brown that up just a little bit by leaving the lid off. And this is I tend to watch this a little carefully. I'm turning it down to 375, and I'm going to leave it for 5 minutes and check it. I'm looking for more the color that I want than how much it's cooked by. So I really want this, I want to just crisp it up or look for the color at this point. Echo, set timer 5 minutes.
5 minutes, starting now.
It's been another 5 minutes. I'm just going to check and see what it looks like. It's starting to get a little brown. I'm going to turn it just a little bit because I'd like a little more color. I have a pretty cheap oven, and so it doesn't heat evenly. I'm going to give that another 5 minutes. Echo, set timer 5 minutes.
5 minutes, starting now.
So I gave it another 5 minutes, and I'm guessing it's good. And yes, I like the looks of that. That's what I want it to look like. So now I'm going to turn the oven off, leave it there cracked. The oven will cool pretty quickly, but this is going to give it a nice crunchy outside, which is what I'm after. We're taking it out. I think it's going to be just fine. To get it out, sitting in parchment paper works really nicely. I'm going to just dump it out into my hand. Being careful with this because it's still hot. That's what the bottom looks like. That's what the bottom looks like. There we are. That's the top. Now I'm going to set it over here to cool.